So high school pretty much began normally. Year 7, there was nothing odd. I mean, you know, there was the occasional run-in with somebody that didn't like me and the other way around. But a really unique thing happened. A transitionary period between year 7 and year 8. It was a thing that me, my friends, we all noticed it. Everybody noticed it. Everybody witnessed it coming, and it wasn't sneaky. And that was the rise of mobile phones. You know, it was literally a 12-month period in high school where the entire class went from, there was like 2 mobile phones in class to every student having a mobile phone. Not only a mobile phone, but also a camera and Bluetooth capability. And that is going to be it's going to be the first topic of today's podcast. The ability, the first time this ever happened, the first time I ever witnessed it, and the first time it ever happened in my life was the ability to transfer videos and music from one phone to another. It was insane. So, you know, I'll begin every story with a sort of a lighter note before I dive into the deeper, more grittier side of what happened and what eventuated. I guess what eventuated is what we're living in today, which is just tech chaos. Massive corporations are fighting over your attention span and how much time you spend on their apps. That's what their priority is now. It's keeping eyes on their apps. So we'll start with year 7. I didn't have a mobile phone. I did have a mobile phone, but it didn't work. It was a Nokia 3315 and it sat in the bottom drawer at home. I wasn't allowed to take it out of the house. And it was strange because mobile phones hadn't been in classrooms that long before they got a blanket ban. It was almost like 2 kids in class had mobile phones and then the blanket ban happened. So when the mobile phone boom happened a few months later, the blanket ban had already been solidified. It had already been locked in. But that didn't stop literally every kid in class from pulling their phones out. What's the teacher going to do if every kid in class has their phone out? Nothing. Especially if they're a wimpy fucking timid teacher, like a lot of the teachers I had in year 8. So the first phone I got for my birthday in year 8 was a ZTE. I wanted it. There were a couple of kids in class that had that phone. I wanted the red one. Came with a 2 megapixel camera. Had space for a micro SD card, 2 gigabyte. But the most important thing that everyone was asking for and everyone wanted was Bluetooth. The Bluetooth capability. Everyone would be like, nice phone. And the follow-up question would be, does it have Bluetooth? Always. I remember that question so much. Oh, that phone's sick, man. Oh, does it have Bluetooth though? And see, that you could have a cool fucking phone. Sony Ericsson put out some cool fucking phones with ringtones that sounded like ringtones. They weren't polyphonic, but they didn't come with the capability of Bluetooth, what all the students and kids at school were looking for. So, you know, you would immediately become the laughing stock if your phone didn't have Bluetooth. Oh, just turn your Bluetooth on, I'll send it to you. Oh, I don't have Bluetooth. Oh my God, did you hear that? He doesn't have Bluetooth. So you were looking for a phone, preferably with Bluetooth on it. It was just quality of life too. If you wanted a Metallica song or an Iron Maiden song that somebody else had on their phone, they could just easily transfer it to you and then you've got it. It's permanently yours. It's your property now, which is fucking awesome. And 12 months before I had my first mobile phone, I was still using a MP3 player, you know, that I had a USB side and you would plug it in and you would just load MP3 files onto it from LimeWire or wherever else you were getting your music files. As soon as Bluetooth came out, no need for that anymore. Audio jack in the bottom of the phone. The phone was an all-in-one device pretty much from the get-go. They weren't smartphones yet. They're still button phones. I saw my first iPhone probably that year as well. There was one kid in the school that had an iPhone, and there was another kid with an iPod Touch, and I was just so infatuated with them. It was alien technology still. These things were fucking insane. Leaps and bounds ahead of all the other shit. Not only did they have Bluetooth, they had a touchscreen, they had brightness slider, they had just everything you could think of in a phone at the time was in the first iPhone. And they were just so sleek and sexy, and the back of them was silver and shiny, and it just radiated it just had baller energy. And no one owned them. No one owned them. Not in my year level anyway. So the reason I wanted to talk on this topic, and the reason that I'd sort of had a burning desire to talk about this topic, was because I was thinking earlier today about the first fucked up videos that I had ever watched and the origins of those fucked up videos. And through no fault of my own, I was exposed to some really horrific, disgusting videos that would alter and change the course of months of my life, would really fuck me in the head. And these were videos that were getting circulated around my year level, higher and lower as well. Because, once a bunch of kids had mobile phones, all kids had mobile phones. They were fucking everywhere, dude. It boomed so quickly. It went from no one having them to everyone having them. All sorts of variants. One of my mates, his dad worked in customs at the airport, so he was bringing in phones from America that weren't even out in Australia yet. Ones that would flip it, he brought the web slider to school before the web slider was even a thing in Australia. He brought in the first BlackBerry I'd ever seen. I was like, that's crazy. There's a keyboard on a fucking phone. What is that, a calculator? No, it's a phone. Spinning everyone out. Anyway, people would tell you to leave your Bluetooth on, and not only would they send you through a song, they would send you through a video. And, this is old school, man. You can't see the picture. The video doesn't have a picture. It's just like an MP4 or whatever it was, it's just a blank video. It's just and you click on it. And then once you click on it, you see exactly what it is pretty much straight away. But, being a curious fucking kid, there's a group of kids gathered around one kid's phone at a table, and they're all going, whoa, what the fuck? Oi, play it again. And, that immediately spikes my curiosity, and I walk over and I witnessed my first beheading in a classroom on some kid's mobile phone. And I could not get the image of that man's face. Once they cut the man's head off, so they had the man laying on the ground, they reef his head back with his hair, so lifts his head, he's on his chest on the ground, they lift his head up so his neck is bulged and exposed frontwards, and then they just start hacking at this man's neck, and the blood, it looked unreal to me. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I'd never seen violence like that, ever. This was my very first time seeing this. They cut this man's neck for 20 seconds. So much blood. They peeled the rest of his head away from the skin that it's still, connected to. And then they place his head on his back, sort of keeping his head locked between his arms were bound by rope or something. And they sort of just cradled his head between his two arms. And then the camera zooms in on his face, and his eyes are open, and his mouth sort of a little bit ajar. And that, I couldn't look away, but I didn't want to see it. It was just so captivating and so fucked up. So that video circulated quite a bit. It was almost, at some points, that video was unavoidable. It was on everyone's phone. Everyone had it. And if someone didn't have it, they had a mate that could Bluetooth it to them. So it was always, that particular video wouldn't fuck off. It got to the point where, at first it fucked me up seeing it, and then it just became, oh, there's that video again. And then that happened for other videos as well. There's a guy getting a rock dropped on his head, puppy getting thrown off a cliff, chick getting fucked by a horse, a guy putting his head in a chick's pussy, like a bald dude. Lots of porn went around school. It was porn and violence. That was what I witnessed in year 8. Lots of porn, lots of violence. And everyone had it. The nerdy kids had it, the fucking popular kids had it. Everyone was circulating this fucked up media around the school. And so it was completely unavoidable. And even if you went out of your way to avoid it, you would catch glimpses of it, dude. It was the boom of mobile phones. You know, it was the first time that year was the first time I'd ever seen a Motorola Razr, which was like the coolest phone. But the only Motorola Razrs I ever saw were in pink. So I was like, you know, I did see black and grey ones later on, but at first there was sort of a girl's phone. The Motorola Razr was a chick's phone. All the sluts at school had them, you know, and all the blokes sort of had, what did we have? Well, I had a ZTE. My mate had a black ZTE. They were just good, convenient phones, good camera, and they did the job. You could also download games off the store. I remember downloading Guitar Hero. Like, there's this shitty little mobile version of Guitar Hero and playing that. And I was utilizing my mobile phone more so for music and games. But yeah, most people around me were there was so much porn, more porn than you can fucking wrap your head around. And, you know, low poly porn. It wasn't this HD shit you get now. It was this pixelated shitty porn. But you know what? We went from having no porn to having all the porn in the world. Before I had a mobile phone, I was, you know, on the sly going on RedTube, and I didn't know about Pornhub back then. All I knew was RedTube. Somebody at school went, type in RedTube. When you get home, Google RedTube and go on its porn. So that was the only one I knew. You know, there's X videos, X and XX. There's so many fucking porn sites. But the only one that I knew, my go-to website, was RedTube back in the day. So porn wasn't really that big a deal for me on mobile phone. It was more there's videos of people killing themselves, videos of people killing animals. BME Pain Olympics was going around on people's phones. It's cunts like chopping their dicks off and putting nails through their balls. And it was all gore, all filth. And the exposure to it left me, I can't really speak for my mates at the time. I'm sure it was doing some pretty vast amounts of damage to them too. But I can definitely speak for myself, and I didn't know that humans were capable of doing those things to each other. I mean, played games all my life where you're cutting heads off and shooting people, but the cartoon version of violence was always the cartoon version of violence to me. It was always the fantasy side. My brain couldn't wrap around I couldn't wrap my brain around the idea of somebody actually having their head cut off. And after seeing that first beheading video, it was a downward spiral. I saw someone shoot themselves, on camera, a video of a person shooting their head with a shotgun, video of a guy hanging himself in a cupboard and his head going all purple and blue. Lots of suicide video, lots of snuff videos, videos of Brazilian prisons, just the aftermath of prison riots. So there's people's heads on the ground and kidneys and just entrails lying around, and just brutal scenes that children should not be exposed to, but we were exposed to the absolute brunt of it. And this was before teachers understood what was going on. This was a little market, a little front that all the students were running. This had nothing to do with the adults. I don't think the adults had any idea of what was circulating around the mobile phones of the teenagers at the time. It instilled a fear in me and also a curiosity. I was mesmerized by that violence. At some point, something changed in my head where I couldn't look away, and I actively sought out the most fucked videos. I don't know why I was trying to do this to myself, but I was actively trying to find and witness the most grotesque of grotesque videos. And it began with a mate that had a really good phone and a lot of fucked up videos. And it went from seeing all those videos, he's like, this one's really bad. And, I started getting desensitized to a lot of the violent videos that I was watching. At first, I was petrified and I didn't ever want to see them again. And very, very, very quickly, my brain became desensitized to violence, where I would watch a video of someone kill themselves and go, boring. That was boring. You got anything else? Within the span of a year, didn't take long, children, year 8s, we went from not having access to any of this, not witnessing any of this, to not even 12 months later, saying boring to beheading videos. Boring. It was that quick. It was so fucking fast. It's hard to explain how quick the progression of phones were. And then it didn't stop. Once I got my first mobile phone, there was a kid that came into school with an even better one. And I was nagging mum for an even better mobile phone the next year. And, you know, every year after that, you get a better phone. Up to now, I mean, I haven't upgraded my phone, my S10, for years. I haven't needed to. It's a fucking great phone. Hasn't broken yet. Great battery life still. But back then, the progression of phones was jaw-dropping. Every single year there was a new generation, and every single year there was a person at school that had it straight away. So you could go and see what the new model iPhone looked like. You could go and see what the new model of Galaxy looked like, because there was always a kid at school, a fortunate kid at school, who got it first. Like, I remember the Samsung Galaxy 2. I remember holding that in my hand and going, this is some next level shit. Not only was it a big phone, hefty phone with a nice big screen, it's very hard to explain what was going on in my head when I was holding this technology. I know I wanted it. I wanted to be a part of it. From a young age, I've been a materialist. I've always wanted the newest and coolest game console. And it did, for me, honestly, begin with game consoles. You know, Game Boys, handhelds, Nintendo DS, even the little fucking handhelds we used to get as toys at McDonald's. Always fascinated me, dude. I've always had a fixation with technology. Since I was just a bub, since I was fucking knee-high, I've always wanted to play games. I've always wanted to be around technology. So this boom that happened in high school was everything I ever wanted. Everything I could ever ask for. The only thing that was lacking now was my ability to acquire one. I didn't have the money to buy one, and neither did my parents. I had a ZTE, and that was fine enough. Bluetooth was all I really wanted, and music was the only thing that, you know, was driving me. I would have a headphone in class 24/7. I think that's probably why I've got tinnitus in one ear now, is because I would just always have one earbud in on one side 24/7, never not. And so that violence and that porn that even the girls had on their phones, it became worse and worse and more grotesque. And we went from just bailing on the phone videos to just straight up finding websites that supplied the most fucked gore. So there was a website, you know, obviously everyone knows rotten.com. There was another website called Gorgrish, which I found myself. There was another one called That's Fucked. And that'sfucked.com, I mean, there weren't many people that could get to like page 3 of that'sfucked.com. And I exhausted all those websites. I mean, I'd seen every suicide picture, all the murder pictures, all the sex pictures, everything. I'd gone through and just scoured the aisles of those websites and not downloaded onto my phone, downloaded into my brain. The images burned into my eyes, burned into my retinas. Pictures of shotgun suicide victims, autopsy faces, pictures of dead kids, pictures of fucking, you know, hung animals, scun animals. The most fuck shit you can think of. I was perusing the websites, looking at how old would I have been? Year 8, year 10, I was 16. Year 9, I repeated. So it would have been like 16, year 9, 15, 14. 13 years old. At 13 years old, I was watching videos of people getting their heads cut off, people killing themselves. So, and this all began from the wave of mobile phones that came through the school. Otherwise, I never would have looked at any of this shit. That first beheading video that I witnessed, it fucked me up so bad. My brain, for some reason, I don't know why, I'm too far from that time now to rationalize my train of thought, but I actively sought more trauma. I went out and looked for more videos that would traumatize me. And at some point, it stopped. The trauma stopped. I had exhausted my fear. You know, I went onto those websites fearless. I scrolled, smiling, looking for something that was going to fuck me up. And it wasn't happening anymore. I was completely desensitized to violence, desensitized to the most extreme types of porn at the age of 13. And so were all my mates as well. we were all doing it. We were all watching people kill themselves and shit. It was just a normal thing. You know, not for everyone. Obviously, there was still kids in the school that were like not wanting to see that. But my whole fucking class, all the boys in my classroom, we were all watching murder videos or trying to one-up each other with, look at this video that I found. And it was before big proxies started showing up on computers at school. So you could still look up porn at school. You could still, in the library, you could still look up videos of people, you know, killing themselves. Or our favorite thing to do in the library was put on porn and turn it up to max volume and then go hide. Because, you know, the chick getting fucked and she's screaming out and the librarians had come over and they're trying to figure out what's going on. Just hilarious. Turning the old CRT screens off after you put on the porn. You turn the screen off, turn the speakers right up. Oh, dude, some of the fucking best pranks through that shit. We used to prank call. You know, these mobile phones had such a amazing utilitarian purpose for just entertaining otherwise really, really bored kids. We were just sitting around doing fuck all. In high school, no one's playing anymore. You went from primary school where there's playgrounds, sand pits and Tiggy to just, it was like all that shit was just gay as fuck now. And through no fault of your own, you go from enjoying your life as a student at primary school, you know, you still got the hiccups of childhood and stuff like that, but you have the freedom of running around the school and you're it. Gang Up Tiggy was some of the funnest days of my life at school, where bullies and people that would not ever talk to each other at school are now on the same team as each other in Gang Up Tiggy, and you're like, I could live like this. This is awesome. You know, it was, however, temporary, but those days were just some of the most wholesome and fun days, and they all disappeared. Soon as you go to high school, they disappear. Now you've got year 12s. Now you're back at the bottom of the food chain. You go from grade 6 back down to prep, essentially. You know, year 7s. When I first started at high school as a year 7, the abuse that I copped, not only me, I wasn't singled out for the abuse, but just year 7s in general, just not understanding the status quo of high school etiquette or anything. Being completely fresh and new to a whole new set of rules and a whole new set of big kids and also a whole new set of bullies that absolutely bring the pain. You think primary school bullies were bad. High school bullies are an ultimate step up. They're the final boss compared to anyone that you dealt with in primary school, especially when you're in grade 6. You're at the top. Who's going to bully you? You know? You're in grade 6. Well, your peers might bully you. You know, somebody in your class might bully you, but fortunately for me, that wasn't the case. I was a class clown, and I had a lot of mates that were also just following suit. So, formed a little bit of a clown posse, little group, just a group of jesters. But, all that disappeared almost overnight when we went to high school and started in year 7. Can't be a class clown in year 7. You know, there's teachers you don't know now. There's also detentions. There's after school detentions. Suspensions are dished out. High school was fucking scary to start with. But in year 7, no one I knew had a mobile phone yet. I was still a year off seeing one. The only people I knew that had mobile phones were adults, you know, mum and dad, teachers. No students. And the students that did have mobile phones were real sneaky with them. Pull them out, show you, shove them back in the bag again. Don't tell anyone. And then, what felt in my memory looking back, what seems like literally a year later, everyone has them. It's a completely different lifestyle now. Went from hanging out after school with your mates, riding around on BMXs, doing all that shit, to going home and sitting on live messenger and just messaging people. It went from that to that. You'd still hang out with your mates. You'd still go to the pool with your mates and shit like that. But the slowing, the sort of social slowing had already begun. And it begun with the first wave of mobile phones. And it began with the first wave of messenger apps or messenger, live messenger apps that were on computers. people just started chatting with each other over Messenger, and MySpace was around, and it's just a little bit before Facebook. Maybe Facebook existed, but it was not on my radar or anyone I knew's radar yet. And we'd sort of exhausted the categories of gore, exhausted the categories of porn. I was already at that point before I was 15. So I just thought that was a really interesting topic to just bring up and talk about, because obviously kids are being exposed to some pretty horrendous shit these days, but I feel like there's a lot better sort of awareness now for the kids. There's YouTube, kid spaces and stuff like that. Adults are aware, well, I'm 31. So there's people out there that had kids in their early 20s, and their kids are now like older. They're older kids, self-aware as fuck. They know what's going on. So, people my age back in the day would have been going through what I went through, and then having kids. They would have been like, fuck no, I'm not ever exposing my children to the horrendous shit that I saw in high school. The shit that my mate sent me that I wasn't ready for. I go from writing in my notepad to looking down at my phone and seeing someone's fucking head get blown off. I don't think any children should be exposed to that sort of shit. Because when I was just beginning this podcast, telling the story of the guy's head getting severed off, I was reliving a little bit of that feeling in my gut of the first time that I couldn't get the image of his face out of my head for a really long time. It traumatized me hard. And some kids are laughing, That's where we were at, man. That was high school for me, and that was early. That's year 8. That was the first time I did year 8. And it just got more and more and more and more, and it just amped up. It just kept amping up every single year. There was something better technology, newer this, newer that. And you never went too far without seeing something brand new. It was around the same time that hardstyle, like shuffling, was starting to get really big. And so all these people had, Welcome to the Club and Riverside on their phone, and you would just hold the phone in your hand and shuffle. That was just a thing that people started doing. So it was cool seeing the shuffle scene come through. Hardstyle. There's a couple of really cool, like good dancers at my school. Before the age of Bluetooth speakers, before the age of hooking your phone up to you would just shuffle to phone music. That's how it was. Soulja Boy, that fucking song. You. Yeah, it was around. I'm scraping right now. I'm trying to think of what else was relevant at the time. It was just music. There was just libraries of music. It'd be like, oh, you want to scroll through my phone and see what I got? And you would. And you'd be like, I want that. They'd send it to you. I want that. They'd send it to you. It was awesome. Little market, little distribution market. Then came the emulators. That was the next thing that came. So somebody had figured out how to put Project 64, which was a Nintendo 64 emulator, on the library computers at school. And so people could, freely play Banjo-Kazooie and Mario and Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, all those games. They were all playable on the library computers for a little while, until the school, school being school, put proxies on all the computers at some point and locked us all out of Miniclip and Armor games and all the little websites that we would go to when we were allowed free time in IT. So yeah, we got locked out of the system. But then, of course, the nerdier kids would come in with a proxy of their own, and you could get around the school's firewalls. But there was a pretty notorious computer technician at the high school I was going to at the time, who was he was savvy. He knew what was going on, and he knew that the kids knew what was going on too. So it was this constant war of attrition, who could outsmart the other. And he was good. He was good at what he did. I'll give him that. He was a good computer technician. We started trying to smash his window. Sorry. His office had no window except a little tiny porthole right up. Just this tiny little shoebox of a room. So you could bang on his door and run away, and then the door would open. sort of almost cartoonishly, his little head had come out and look around it and go back in. So he got smart to it and installed a webcam, a hidden webcam, to spot out the people that were knocking on his door. And then he installed a webcam on the window that was in the alley. So if you banged on his door and you covered your face and you walked down the alley, he still got you. You still got in shit. And you're sitting in the principal's office going, what the fuck? How'd he get me? And that was constant. Old fucking Lionel was his name. Lionel, the computer technician. You know, I'm sure he was a lovely bloke outside of work, but we fucking hated his guts, dude. He blocked us out of everything. He out-proxied our proxies. So we had to start moving to USB gaming. And the first kids to start doing that at school were the tech-savvy kids that obviously had, you know, dads with PCs or however they were doing it. The first kids in school to bring the emulators in were the geeks, like the nerdy kids. And I had a few, I wouldn't say friends, I wouldn't say close, but I was like mates with a couple of the nerdy kids through, you know, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So that was my in. I had convinced one of the kids that had Project 64 and Ocarina of Time to just lend me it. Just lend me it. No. Constant no's. I used every trick in the book to try and convince these fucking assholes just to let me take a USB home, put Project 64 on my personal computer, and bring it back into school. They didn't trust me. So I offered them $80 that I didn't have. I didn't have $80, but I did have $5, so I had a down payment. And that was enough for one moron to bite the bait. And he lent me his USB, and I took Project 64 home. I replicated it. I invited my mates over. I put Project 64 on all of their device, like all of their USBs, every game they wanted. I found a ROM website. I began downloading as many ROMs as I possibly could. Built a little 250 megabyte USB. That was all we had at the time. I think 2 gig was the expensive one. I didn't have that. Took the USB back, and he was none the wiser. He had no idea what I had done, and I had completely open sourced. He was being an arsehole. He was gatekeeping Project 64 like a little shit, like kids do. You know, that's mine. It's mine. I'm not sharing. So I duped that motherfucker and open sourced Project 64 to everyone I could, everyone I possibly could. And he knew it was me. And I was proud of it. I was proud that I did that. I was happy I did that. I got praise for doing that. You know, I felt good. And now everyone can freely play Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, Glover, Super Smash Bros., Mario Kart, whatever N64 game, GoldenEye, whatever N64 game their hearts desired, they could play whenever they wanted. And that cycle continued. I lost my USB. I bought a new USB. I asked one of my mates if I could have Project 64 again. Yep. I began a little community sharing is caring cycle that these little gatekeepy nerdy fucks in the library were clinging onto. And for ages, when I gave him that $5, he goes, "So you're going to give me $5 every Friday, yeah?" And I agreed, yes, yeah. He handed me the USB. I handed him the $5. That was my down payment. He's never seeing another fucking cent from me. You're a moron. You know, he got conned. I look at it that way. I look at it like, get smart. You know, you got the glasses, you got the grades, but you ain't got the streets. So, you know, you learn a couple of things hanging out with fucking feral kids on the street. For one, you learn how to steal pretty well. You learn how to finesse pretty well. You learn how to climb and run and get away and hide very, very well. Cause, we had to do that a few times, but that's for a separate, episode. So yeah, I'm going to end it shortly. I just wanted to touch on the really bizarre time in my life where I witnessed the dawn of a new kind of technology, a handheld technology that had the ability to access the internet and music and videos and swap videos between different phones. I had never seen that before year 8. Year 8 was the year that happened for me. So I was quite young and witnessed all of that stuff at a pretty pivotal pivotal age, and it got me used to and desensitized me to all of the gore that I would witness through my teens, late teens, 20s, late 20s. You know, none of it had the impact anymore. I can watch those videos. I can watch the workplace accident videos and not go, oh. I can watch videos of people's heads getting run over and popping. It doesn't bother me anymore. It might bother me a little bit now because I've actively avoided those videos for quite a while now. I knew they weren't doing good for me. So I jumped off the gore pages. I jumped off I stopped going on that'sfuck.com to see if there were any updates. I stopped it all years ago. 10 years ago, I stopped doing that shit. I was like, I'm so done with this shit. You know, porn, the first porn video I ever watched, I was like fucking 11 years old, dude, or 10 or 11 years old. Through me on Google on the home computer, searching up Paris Hilton boobs and then naked boobs. And I didn't know there was such thing as search history. So what do you reckon happened? I go to my room. I saw some tits. I showed my brother some tits. He's like, yeah, we're both laughing, you know, because the sexual attraction was not there yet. We were just laughing at bouncing titties. We didn't know what was going on. And, yeah, his stepdad fucking screams from one end of the house down to the other. And I just fucking froze, dude. He stopped me in my tracks. I'm in that room and I know what he's yelling at. I know why he's yelling out. And he goes, come here. And so I like the walk of shame, hang my head low, do that, the slow little pace walk over to the computer. And he goes, what the fuck is this? And he just scrolls down the search history and there's naked boobs, vagina, Paris Hilton, pussy. I typed in, all I knew at the time. And, oh, dude. Yeah, he let me have it. He was not fucking happy with me. And then a few years after that, when I discovered what RedTube was, I didn't know that there was such thing as data caps or data limits at all. I had no idea. So when my parents weren't home, I would just freely scroll porn and watch all the porn I could while no one else was around, because it was just awesome. It was just the best. Little did I know though, while I was watching those porn videos, the internet provider was creating the biggest bill ever, and it wouldn't get sent out until the end of the month. So I would watch like a month's worth of fucking porn, and then a big fucking thick letter comes in the mail, billing my parents $2,000. Yeah. That's fully true. Fully happened. I got sat down at the dining room table, lectured, guilted. They were flipping through a stapled sheets of paper of all the search results from RedTube that I had watched over that month. They knew it all. They saw it all. They knew what I watched. And then at the very bottom, in bold writing, it was $2,000 something that they had owed to this internet provider. I'm actually 100% honest with you. I'm not sure what they did with that bill. I'm not sure if that bill got sorted out. I actually have no idea what happened. I got grounded. Everything got taken out of my room. My CD player, my Xbox, my my TV, my computer. Actually, no, my computer was the only thing that stayed. It was the only thing that stuck around. And that's how I got good at PowerPoint presentation cartoons, because it was all I had. Yeah, I really fucked up bad. But I had no idea. At the time, I was watching porn going, this is almost too easy. I'm getting away with this. No, I wasn't. I had to figure it out the hard way, which I did, Just like, I guess many other kids my age at the time would have come across or just, or discovered. That sit down with the parents was a fucking tough one. It's giving me butterflies in my gut right now just talking about it. Alright, well, that's enough of this episode, I reckon. I've got my point across. It's a pretty wacky time to be alive, as it is now. but it was back then too, just a different kind of wacky. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was a little bit insightful. If not insightful, I just hope you enjoyed the ride. Awesome as fuck. That was great. I really enjoyed telling that fucking story, reliving those moments again, and I hope you enjoyed it too. I'll see you guys in the next Finny D show. Have a good one.